Are you smarter than a genius? I sure hope so, because the bar is pretty low, as is evidenced by the worst nonfiction book I've ever read, which proves that the stupidest non-monster is smarter than the smartest monster. I did about 18 minutes just on the first page, and I think the reason why I'm coming back to it, even though it's almost unbearable to put up with, is that the next page shows a new side of the same narrow vision. I think I'm taking it personally because I actually have technophobic thoughts, but I want a solution. And what this idiot blew people up to demonstrate was that instead of actually solving the puzzle, he just wants to knock it off the board because he doesn't want to play anymore. Meh. So that's what's so frustrating about it, is that this guy got the platform and wasted it with nonsense. So what we got on the next page is actually an attempt to present an understanding of the opposition, which should be a strengthening of his argument, but even that falls flatter than the mind that produced it. So here he says, if the system breaks down, the consequences will be painful. And the bigger the system gets, the more painful it will be. So it's better that we end it sooner rather than later. Okay, well, the part about becoming overly reliant on technology is a valid consideration. If all tech goes away, we are in for a violent shift. But guess what else is growing with tech? Human knowledge. Mass communication of stories and information. So while tech grows, we grow with it. How many survivalists are out in the public forum now teaching a natural life? Which is what Ted Kaczynski should have done before he became the Unabomber. So we're learning that we can have an alternative lifestyle to, instead of becoming increasingly dependent on advancing technology, we're also using that technology to learn how to live an alternative lifestyle separate from it. In case it all goes away, we have way more access to knowledge now about how to adapt to it going away. Because there's, what is there, hundreds of survivalists going back to Les Stroud on TV 20 years ago. Survivormen did way more to present an opposition to the harms of the Industrial Revolution than the Unabomber did. So instead of blowing innocent people up to get his stupid, short-sighted, narrow-minded book published, Unabomber should have dedicated his life to showing an opposition to industry, as all of those survivalists do. Bear Grylls show how to survive or even thrive without industry. But since Ted Kaczynski couldn't do that, since he was incapable of winning any debate, instead of presenting a stronger argument, he just lowered himself to what he could do, which is throw a bomb at the opponent. Duh, this'll show people I'm smarter. Do you agree with me now? So it's probably no surprise after that to anyone with critical thinking that Unabomber goes on to call for a direct revolution against economics. Hurling the bomb at his debate opponent, knocking the puzzle off the table is about what he wants to do because he's incapable of actually cooperating and adapting for a better future. He just wants to destroy everything. And incredibly, he admits that he is overlooking certain details, and he's saying it's not because they are unimportant, but in doing so, obviously, he's admitting that his whole demonstration is showing that they're unimportant. If they were important, he would be including those details in his discussion. But he's trying to get away with showing that they're not unimportant by saying they're not unimportant. So he's saying that he's leaving these details out because he'd rather shine a light on lesser known areas. But the details that Unabomber is leaving out as really unimportant, even though he's saying they're still important, it's equivalent to a chef saying that they want to cook their meals without food because food has been getting way too much attention. So the pots and pans need more attention. From now on, I, the master chef, am just going to cook all my meals with no food, just the pots and pans on the oven. We can have it both ways. We can have economy and a natural life. As the survivalists showed, industry did create huge pollution problems. And after smart people were paying attention and noticed, they communicated those statistics to the masses in a way that smart people do. Not by blowing people up from secret areas and trying to get away with it so your book can get published. But because the message itself is more important, they actually communicated them. And once the masses did notice that industry was creating these pollution problems, we've mostly taken steps to solving that problem. We've, established recycling, composting. We've done technological changes using industry to reduce our carbon footprint with alternative sources of energy and fuel. And even so, even though we are adapting to make ourselves less polluting, nothing we've done or nothing we can do is as polluting to contemporary life as what the universe itself does to us. All human pollution is nowhere near as devastating as the great oxidation event from 2 billion years ago, where the single-celled life forms themselves changed the atmosphere and the ecosystem simply by being cogs in the ecosystem. They ingested one matter and expelled another, and their expellation changed the environment and made 99% of all life go extinct. Nothing we do can be that bad. One supervolcano eruption, if Yellowstone blows up, that will be more damaging to life than anything humans can do. A nearby gamma ray burst will fry friend and foe alike. Nature won't save us. Nature can destroy us. But tech, if we cooperate and adjust with it, can save us. As long as we don't use it to destroy ourselves. We can use it to save ourselves from what nature might do to us. And that's just where we get to the detail that is worst of all with this goof. Mr. Freedom, he signed his package bombs FC for Freedom Club. Yeah, he should have signed it Freedom because he was free. Technology and industry allowed him to live the free lifestyle he wanted, and he was dumb by what he did with that freedom. Freedom Club. But what this idiot wanted to do purportedly was to give everyone their freedom by freeing them from the bounds of industry and technology and the economy. But he's actually taking everyone's freedom away by what he did to pursue that quest. His lifestyle limits your options and narrows your choices. It's like camping with no home to go to at the end of the camping. It's like being lost in the middle of nowhere with no one coming to save you and no destination that you can go to where you will be saved. With industry and technology and economy, you can have the camping, you can have the hikes, you can live a natural lifestyle, but still have the safety net to go back to if you choose, if you want that extra option, if you want the freedom of the extra option. You can pick one or the other. And if you want that natural life for yourself, if Ted Kaczynski wanted to live his Montana shack life, fine. That's completely fine to do that. Separate yourself from technology and smell that sweet Montana air. But why condemn everyone else to living your life and nothing else? Why take away everyone else's options? Especially our options for survival, our options to prevent our own extinction. That's not very free, in my opinion. So we then get Kaczynski's appeal to the masses, and what a pathetic, sad attempt it is. Everyone can agree that we live in a deeply troubled society, and the craziest manifestation is modern leftism. Oh, politics, it makes morons of us all. So, in the Unabomber's opinion, modern industrial revolution is the worst thing to ever happen to people. So bad that we need to ruin everyone's lives by destroying it. And the worst part about the worst society is leftism. I don't even need to pick a side politically here to point out what's glaringly wrong about this point of view. Smart people are in the center of left and right, and they hop back and forth to left or right based on the issue and the contemporary problems that they and the masses are facing. That's what smart people do. We have the freedom of more options instead of condemning yourself to one side and you're always right and the other side's always wrong is stupid, short-sighted, and it limits your freedom and your options. But I did have a few questions for this point of view. Which side were the American colonialists on when they burned each other alive at the stake as witches? Was that leftism or rightism? Was the innocent woman, as her skin was boiling, looking at the creepy smile of the man who accused her and got away with it because he knew he can accuse, and it wasn't really that he thought she was a witch. He just wanted to see someone burn alive and he didn't like her, so he got away with accusing her as a witch, and now he's smiling as she burns alive? Was that innocent woman looking at him and saying, well, at least he's not a leftist, because that would be really bad? Before American colonialism, which side were the Native American tribes on when they were scalping and cannibalizing each other? Was that leftism or rightism? The ancient tribes of South America, who sacrificed thousands of children, was that done by the ideals of leftism or rightism? Human beings have done despicable things to each other long before the Industrial Revolution or the left versus right debate. And yes, we continue to do absolutely awful, short-sighted, narrow-minded things to ourselves now. But to attribute all ills to one thing in one time is the same as doing astronomy through a drinking straw, saying, oh, well, clearly, based on my observations, those stars are just holes in the sky, and I can base all of my decisions on that, and anything I do is justified by them being holes in the sky where that light comes through. Duh. How about a telescope? We can look at this observation through the telescope of critical thinking, because the Unabomber's ongoing description of leftism explains his googly eyes. I mean, when he was young Ted Kaczynski, a promising young mathematician, both of his eyes were looking straight, and he probably had a better view of the world. But then that mugshot of him when he was finally caught after all the stupid things he did to get caught, to make it necessary for him to be caught. Getting caught was the smartest thing he did. Well, it was his brother, the non-embarrassment of the family, his brother, who fingered him. What a good example of the Kaczynski family was the Unabomber's brother. So the Unabomber's googly eyes kind of explain his viewpoint of the world as well, because instead of looking where he's supposed to, he's looking over there, and his vision is blurred by the googly vision. Many of his descriptions of leftism are true descriptions, but they're true only of extremism. Not all leftists think this way that he's describing or behave this way. It's just the extreme leftists, and extreme on any side of any issue. They think the same way that the Unabomber is describing leftism to be. So when he writes, leftists added negative connotations to make innocuous words offensive, that's true, but it's only true of extremists, not all leftists, or any side. Any extremists will do that. And language changes over time regardless of what those extremists do. So we can't even really attribute that to extremism because it happens anyway. Read an original copy of the Canterbury Tales. If you're an English-speaking person, the Canterbury Tales in its original form looks like a foreign language, and it's only 700 years ago in the same language. But that language has changed so much over 700 years, we can't even understand it today with modern English. So language changes regardless of the extremists who try to add offensive definitions to words that used to be, like we see that all the time. A lot of words today are offensive that weren't offensive decades ago. But most people can tell someone's intent. The average smart person knows someone's intent when they say a word. So most people can also tell when a power-hungry abuser tries to make something offensive for their own selfish purposes when it's not offensive at all. So they also can tell that when someone says a word that's regarded by the extremists as offensive, they can tell the intent that it's not offensive at all, or they can tell someone else that's trying to make it offensive when it isn't. Most people who are smart can do that. And it's not just all leftists destroying society by doing that all the time. So it's here we get that the Unabomber's biggest example of projection. You know, when someone shows their own faults by criticizing that factor in others. This is one of the biggest examples I've ever seen of anyone, actually. When the Unabomber writes, "The leftist feelings of inferiority are so strong that he can't conceive of himself as individually strong. Hence the collectivism of the left. He can feel strong only as a member of an organization." Now, Tom Hanks had a great quote on Inside the Actors Studio when one of the students asked him why he thought people get into acting. And Tom Hanks's answer applies to all walks of life as well as acting, including the Unabombers, and shines a spotlight on his projection of himself, projecting of his own flaws by criticizing those flaws in others. Tom Hanks said, well, he thinks it's that we all want to be part of something that's bigger than just ourselves. And why did the Unabomber mail bombs to people? Why did he kill innocent people to get his trash book published? Why didn't he just simply enjoy his natural, solitary lifestyle that his family provided for him with money earned through industry in a shack that was created by modern technology that he couldn't have done on his own with natural means? Why didn't he simply just enjoy that solitary lifestyle if he was individually strong? Because he wasn't. He was individually weak. He needed to be propped up by the masses, and he wanted to be part of something bigger than himself. The bombing was for attention. He killed and maimed innocent people just to get attention on himself and his garbage, trash, short-sighted, narrow-minded writings that didn't deserve to be published other than for people to look at it and see as an example of a mind gone down in the drain. If only that googly eye had just turned all the way around and looked into his own brain, he might have realized that. But it got stuck going that way. So we need real solutions to these problems. I'm not saying to ignore these writings, but like I said, they should be seen as an example of a mind gone down the tubes, made sick by isolation and incapable of dealing with everyday human problems. So they resort to the extremism that he's criticizing and describing. It is a good example of that, but we need smart people to come up with real solutions to the problems of advancing technology. These aren't it, but at least the slightest bit of critical thinking can bring you above the intellect of the smartest monster. Have a nice day.